we're at home at Queensgate, I thought we'd start by asking you what you do as rector at Imperial College.
I've often wondered. I suppose I ought to answer you by saying that as the chief executive, so to speak, I'm responsible ultimately for the way all the money is spent and for everything that is done. Responsible to the governors, that is. When it comes down to details of what I actually do instead of that high-flown stuff, I first of all have to make sure that the departments have got the staff and the money and the materials and things like that they need to look after the students that they have taken on. I have to see that academic activities are developed. This is through meetings of the Board of Studies and things like that, which nowadays, of course, students attend as well as staff. That policy is developed to enable the activities, academic activities, to take place that we think students should want and the students think we should want to give, and usually we're in agreement about that sort of thing. The whole four-year course business for the new engineering education we're trying to develop has grown up in that way through the Board of Studies, and it is my job to steer things through, both academically and also to make sure that when it's agreed academically, the resources are also available. So that's my chief job.
Do you feel this gives you the contact with the students and the staff that you would like?
Oh, by itself, most certainly no, it wouldn't. I could in a way do most of that, either chairing meetings in a rather impersonal way or sitting in my office and reading papers. No, certainly not. And one of my constant concerns is to try to meet as many people as I can in the college. And you know that there are something like 7,000 souls in this place. And that's a lot for anybody to get around. And anyway, by the time I might get around them, they'd all have changed. So I have to regret the fact that I don't meet a large proportion of the people, and especially since they're in the majority, the students. And that's why we use this magnificent house that we're fortunate enough to live in to receive people and enjoy the house with them and try to get to know them a little bit in these premises. And I think it was a year ago, in this corresponding term, we had about 400 people in during the course of the term into this flat. I don't mean downstairs, but up here where we actually live.
In your recent Commemoration Day address, you were quite optimistic about the courses that you've mentioned and also the developments in the Linstead Hall extension. What are the main developments you hope to see in Imperial College over the next year?
Well, I'm greatly looking forward to the turning of the first sod on the Linstead Hall extension, of course. That will have been 2 years' hard work come to some sort of fruition. I'm also greatly looking forward to taking the first students into this four-year engineering course. You know, a year ago we were saying how nice it would be if there could be 4 years for engineering education, but since there couldn't be that time, we would have to make do with all sorts of makeshift arrangements. And then quite suddenly, unexpectedly, the government gave way, and we were actually asked to launch this four-year engineering course and give a lead to the country in doing so, in the hope that it may be the way engineers are taught quite generally in future. So that's been an enormous encouragement. I think the other thing that gives me great encouragement is the fact that it appears to be so that the standards of our student entry are gradually going up. I don't want to sound as if we're exclusive, but in the end, our reputation and our success in everything we do depends upon the quality of our students. I don't just mean, of course, in terms of A-level results. I mean in terms of their character, their motivation, their seriousness, but seriousness also in the sense of being able to enjoy themselves and get the most out of life. And I think we are improving ourselves in all those respects, and that is a great source of encouragement, because without that one can't achieve anything.
A lot of third years at the moment applying for jobs are being asked how they anticipate their careers progressing. Did you ever anticipate the success when you were leaving university that you have had?
Well, I don't know whether I should talk about my own success. That's for other people to talk about. When I was still at school, I read the books of people like Jeans and Eddington and people like that, who talked about science in a very general way to lots of people. They were semi-popular books, but also within their limitations in a rather profound way. And I had visions that I'd rather like to be like that. And, well, I did get as far as being in Cambridge, which was where they wrote from. And I did ultimately become a professor, which was in Manchester and not in Cambridge. And all of that, I suppose, was along the lines that I had hoped for when I was a schoolboy. I did not, however, envisage becoming head of a great university institution, nor, I think, did I envisage doing any of the other funny things I've done in my life.
Thank you very much, Sir Brian. Perhaps we could go and join Lady Flowers now.
Let's do that.
In your capacity as chairman of the European Science Foundation, I gather you've both just come back from Strasbourg. Did you have a very nice time?
We had a very busy time. It's the annual jamboree, so to speak, when the whole of the European Science Foundation gets together and surveys the year's work and determines what shall happen in the future. And I have an office in Strasbourg and a small staff there. And I have to go there once a month for 1 or 2 nights. But this is a slightly longer drawn-out affair, and we were there from Saturday until, in my case, Thursday morning.
Did you get to see much of Strasbourg?
Well, I have been there a few times. Obviously, I don't go every time, but I like to go to the assembly, and usually about twice a year.
Do you get the opportunity to travel very much together to other places?
A fair bit, not on routine visits usually, but we've been to the United States together this year, we've been to Germany together, and we've been to Bulgaria together. We usually manage to go together once or twice a year. And this is very useful to us because our family is rather far spread. We've got one son in Philadelphia and one in Frankfurt. So it's nice to be able to get around to see them.
What do you most like to see, Lady Flowers, in the foreign cities?
Well, it depends. I mean, Strasbourg is a very interesting city in itself. It's got a wealth of history and architecture. It's got very good food, and it's very near Frankfurt, where our little grandchildren live. So it's my town.
With all your many activities, do you get much chance to have pastimes that you share?
We have some, yes. We cook together quite a lot. Which is fun. My wife's the real cook, you must understand. I'm allowed to help by chopping vegetables and things like that, and sometimes when she's otherwise engaged I actually cook something, and I think she's slightly cross if it turns out well, but she's very good about it and eats it.
Do you have any other activities, interests?
We've got absolutely loads of hobbies here. We've never enough time for our hobbies.
No, I'm afraid that's one of the troubles. My wife is very artistic. I do a little bit of painting. We both are very fond of music, and indeed at one time we used to make a lot of music together. I would play the cello and she would play the piano and accompany me, or I would play the piano accompanying her singing, or something of the sort, with friends. But that is all now, I'm afraid, a great number of years ago. And we just don't have the time for that now. The college really is, you know, a very full-time activity for both of us.
I gather some of your pictures are hung around 170 Queensgate here.
Yes, you will see, not mine, no, because I restrict my activities more to designing things, but you will see, if you look very carefully, in this building, 1 or 2 paintings with my husband's initials on.
The best thing that can be said about them is people haven't noticed who did them, perhaps.
I see. Your interest in this has extended to the Art Foundation at Imperial College, I gather.
Well, I managed to get set up a little art fund. We had a benefaction from somebody, not very large, which wasn't tied to any particular purpose, as many benefactions are. And so I was able to start something that I'd wanted to start from the first day I was here, noticing that our walls were very bare. I mean around the college. And so I managed to create an art fund with this benefaction, and we've since added a little bit of money to it. And the interest each year is spent on buying pictures and other objets d'art from the degree exhibition of the Royal College of Art. So for us it's a purchase, but for them it's a prize. And the Royal College of Art and Imperial College jointly choose the things that we're going to buy. And I think this helps us both, and it manages to cover up our walls very, very slowly, but nevertheless significantly. And many of the pictures which are now hanging somewhere or other in the Sherfield building are purchased in that way. Some in 170 are also. And I hope next year we may be able to buy one or two things to hang in Southside. But we shall have to see what the students of the Royal College of Art provide us with next year first.
Well, thank you both very much for having us here in Queensgate.
Thank you, we've
Thank you.
enjoyed it too.